This episode of Jack is brought to you by Weaver Leather.
At one point, I started teaching Jack the cues for laying down. And I actually got Jack trained right up to the edge of where the lay down would happen, and then I changed my mind. Let me go ahead and tell you why. When I start teaching horses tricks, whether that is teaching them to bow, teaching them to lay down, teaching them to rear from the ground, any of those things I consider to be advanced groundwork. And so it's always good to get your basic groundwork down, and then at some point to come back and start raising the bar, raising the level, expecting more from your horse. I had thought that I would teach Jack how to lay down, and this would be handy because it gives me something to do with the horse in a small situation. Because when I start teaching the horse to lay down, I pick a cue, and the cue I've been using right now is tapping them under the belly. It doesn't interfere with any of my other cues. And then what I reward the horse for first is for dropping their nose down to the ground. So I tap on their belly, and I stop tapping on their belly when they stick their nose down on the ground. Then I put them up alongside of a wall because it's easier to keep them from moving and squirming away from you. And I tap them on the belly, and I reward them for dropping their head down. Then I stop. I have two other cues. I have a stop going forward cue where I tap on the cannon bones. If you watch an earlier episode of Jack, you can find that. And I have a go forward cue back on the hip, like a tap to make them take a step forward. Then what I begin to do is I begin to ask them to take a step forward with the hind end, but then I switch up to the front and I tell the front end to stop. So in essence, I'm saying, don't move your front end forward, but please move your hind end up. And by doing that, I can get the horse to where they squish together, kind of like an accordion. So their front feet are staying here and they're pulling their hind feet closer and closer and closer. So what I like about doing this is I like that by teaching the horse to pull all of its feet very close together, I can get the horse into an uncomfortable position. Let's look at Jack for just a minute. We've decided to name this yoga move Earth, or contemplating dirt. It doesn't even look possible to be safe.
That's an amazing counterbalance.
Still life, slow motion portrait. This is how they are in a sliding stop, by the way. They pull their hind legs up to where they're passing their front legs. Jack's gonna be good for real slow demos on this. Part of the key here is giving him enough time to think about this. So even though this looks like such an awkward position, he has some choices here. He could try to get out of it. He could stay here. He could buckle a knee and lay down. So just giving him some time to think. I think he just balanced on his nose. Did you catch that? You can see the lay down want to happen. A really determined horse can hold out for over an hour doing this. When I was teaching Popcorn, he stood like this for over an hour at one point. As you can see from the video clip of Jack, you can see all the muscles working and him trying to balance himself. What eventually happens is that the horse will make a mistake, or they'll either choose to lay down or they'll make a mistake of like falling down on their knee, and I reward them for that. Now with Jack, I've decided not to finish this lay down cue. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this cue as kind of end of the trail. the dramatic pulling up their feet together and putting their nose down and looking like that classic end of the trail look. I'm going to go ahead and leave Jack at that stage. So what you can see with Newt is that he understands that the cue on the belly means lay down. So he does not dramatically pull his legs together. He starts to pull his legs together into a comfortable position, and then he goes ahead and he lays down on the ground. Well, Newt also recently decided when I was riding him that when I was asking for a lead departure, that caused his back feet to come up closer, and I had his head down, and he thought, hey, a great idea right here would be to lay down. Maybe she'll like this. And so Newt made the mistake of laying down. I corrected him, and he hasn't made that mistake again. But if your horse lays down in an NRHA reining pattern, you automatically get disqualified. So with a young horse like Jack, who's already learning so many other things, I'm choosing not to go down that road of teaching him the full-blown laydown. But it is something that if you really enjoy taking your groundwork to the next level, it's something that I really enjoy doing.